And we begin with the latest on the funeral plans for Queen Elizabeth as the new head of the United Kingdom gets set to make his first Parliament appearance today on Monday. Officials in Scotland and England are bracing for a massive and probably unprecedented turnout when the public viewings for Queen Elizabeth II get underway on Monday night. And they're warning that the wait times could take hours, perhaps even longer. CBS's Ian Lee reports from England.
Britain's long goodbye to Queen Elizabeth is now officially underway. On Sunday, a hearse carried the Queen's coffin from the Scottish country home where she died to Edinburgh, Scotland's capital. The 6-hour journey was marked by huge crowds that lined the roads for a glimpse of the hearse.
The mood was somber but respectful, but spontaneous applause began just as the cortege had left.
Today, the Queen's body will be transported to St. Giles Cathedral along Edinburgh's Royal Mile. Elizabeth's son, the new King Charles III, will lead the procession, which will conclude with a private service. Afterwards, members of the public will be able to come pay their respects in person. Queen Elizabeth is expected to lie at rest in Scotland for about 24 hours. Her coffin will then be flown to London for an extended public viewing.
Charles began his day with his first address to Parliament as king, vowing to continue his mother's dedication to the nation.
She set an example of selfless duty, which, with God's help and your counsels, I am resolved faithfully to follow.
The death of the UK's longest reigning monarch has prompted an outpouring of grief across the country. For most of her subjects, the 96-year-old was the only monarch they had ever known.
She'll be sorely missed, not only by her family, but I think everyone that she's come into in their lives.
There's been a lot of concern and speculation online over what will happen to the Queen's corgis. They're reportedly going to remain together and in the care of her family. The BBC says the dogs will be jointly adopted by her son Prince Andrew and his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson.
Well, meantime, the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda said that the Caribbean country will hold a referendum on whether to become a republic and remove King Charles III as the head of state within the next few years. The former British colony gained its independence from the United Kingdom in 1981, but it's one of 14 countries. In addition to the UK, where the British monarch is head of state, it is also a part of the Commonwealth, a 56-member organization of mostly former British territories. After confirming King Charles III as the King of Antigua and Barbuda on Saturday, Prime Minister Gaston Brown told a local news outlet there that he planned on holding a referendum on whether the country becomes a republic in the next 3 years. He explained that it would be a final step to complete the circle of independence to become a truly sovereign nation. Last year, Barbados severed its final imperial links to Britain by declaring itself a republic. Barbados' decision marked the first time in nearly 3 decades that a realm opted to remove the British monarch as head of state. Well, also throughout the Caribbean, this week, students in the Turks and Caicos will head back into the classrooms. But like schools throughout the Caribbean and all around the world, they're kicking off the school year with a teacher shortage. Our One Caribbean News' Deandra Hamilton reports.
Government schools in the Turks and Caicos Islands are scheduled to start the 2022-2023 academic year this week. Yet it will not be smooth sailing as the country's education sector is facing challenges which have become commonly heard now around the world. The Turks and Caicos is also facing a teacher shortage, as many as 15 have resigned the public sector.
As a result of what is happening globally, the Turks and Caicos Islands has been impacted by resignations. To date, there are 15 of them. With the beginning of the school year, we will be impacted directly by at least 13 resignations. The other 2 will leave later in the school year after school starts.
This poses a major setback for learning and for students and for the ministry, and the Deputy Director of Education, Mark Garland, admitted filling the vacancies will take time.
In situations such as these, effort would have been made to employ teachers on a temporary basis until we are able to fill those vacancies via the recruitment process.
In addition to the teacher shortage, there is a space shortage for students, and that waiting list is long.
There are some of you who have yet to hear from the Education Department in relation to your placement, but we promise you that we are seeking placement within the private schools to accommodate those of you who have yet to be placed.
That was Minister of Education Rachel Taylor addressing this recurring problem for TCIG. So far, around 428 students have been placed in schools. These students are new cohorts at the primary and pre-primary levels and those transitioning to high school for the first time. DeAndre Hamilton reporting.
All right, thanks so much, Jander. Meantime, teachers and employees of the Department of Education in Puerto Rico who worked since the beginning of the COVID pandemic are going to be receiving some extra money. An extra $1,500 will be given to the employees quarterly for their hard work. The first disbursement of the money is set for November 15th. The payment will cover from July of 2022 to June of 2023 for a total of 4 quarters. The money to cover this is coming from Coronavirus Aid and CARES Act funding. Eligible employees are considered those who work under the categories of regular, probationary, temporary appointments, part-time employees, 5 hours and onwards, and a regular employee. Well, meantime, Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley says her government intends to enter another agreement with the International Monetary Fund. The current 4-year program with the Washington-based financial institution, which supported the country's homegrown Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Plan, ends on September 30th. And Prime Minister Mottley says this time around, the government is seeking $130 million under a 3-year program to support a revised BERT plan. She said that would unlock access to other development funds, including $200 to $210 million under the IMF's Resilience and Sustainability Trust. The Prime Minister said that the government decided to go to the IMF for financing rather than go to the international market because the cost of borrowing has increased globally. She said the IMF is still the cheapest form of financing available.
If the world is in an environment where the rain is falling hard, you need to find a raincoat, you need to find an umbrella, and you need to find boots. And Barbados believes that this is not the time for us to simply go out there at this point in time, given all of the global uncertainty and given the increases in the costs of borrowing and the cost of capital. In addition to that, those things that we have been able to do in the first program, with our first BERT program, 2018, have allowed us to get in large measure to where we need to be. But we recognize that because of COVID, there's still work that remains unfinished. The work with respect to completing the restructuring and repurposing of our state-owned enterprises is a work in progress that we had put a pause on largely because of COVID.